Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Friday. It's August 30th. It is 2024. We have a 10-game MLB slate to talk about here on today's podcast. Joined today by my good buddy, Will Priester, ChiefJustice06. Chief, what's happening, my friend?
Nothing much, brother. Doing good. Glad to be here. Glad to be glad to have a 10-game slate on a Friday. Which will help us tremendously, both personally, professionally, and sometimes, man, I feel like 13, 14 games, just a lot. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a lot of games, a lot of outcomes. Like a good 10-game slate on a Friday, I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, 10 games on a Friday, fantastic. 10 good games, pitching, hitting, a lot of different ways to build on the slate. Can't wait to hear you talk about wanting to fade Baltimore against Austin Gomber and Coors. Going to be fun times. So, yeah, excited for the podcast. Excited to get back on the grind here. And hopefully everyone's having a fantastic Thursday night. What's up, YouTube? What's up, chat? Yes. Listen, it's going to be a good day. It's Friday. You know, what else can go wrong on a Friday? If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button over there on the RotoGrinders Morning Grind YouTube page. And help us out. We're almost there. We're getting there. We're like, it's climbing. Like, I like the fact that it's climbing and not going down. Will, we got 10 games. Let's jump in, have some fun, and talk some baseball. St. Louis at New York is where we start, 8.5 total. The Yankees, a 172 favorite. Eric Fetty, Marcus Stroman. Thoughts here on Fetty?
I mean, he's reasonably priced considering he's had a fairly okay season. I don't feel like he's going to go in here and mow down the Yankees in terms of strikeouts, and I just feel like he's just blah today, Steve. I don't think Fetty has enough upside for me to win today, so I'm not going to play him.
Yeah, I mean, terrible spot, right? Like overall, a terrible spot going up against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. One of the toughest matches, on the board, matchups on the board for any pitcher. And now, like, we get a pitcher that his strikeout rate definitely has dipped throughout the season. They're figuring out that stuff he's added to the mix for sure. And I mean, the Yankees are one of the toughest teams in baseball against right-handed pitching. So I'm going to pass on Fetty today. Stroman, other side of this game. I mean, we see from time to time you can pitch well against the Cardinals. Stroman, below average strikeout pitcher, 10-game slate. Do we pull the trigger here on Stroman or we leave him on the bench?
Oh, no. We're not playing Stroman against low strikeout St. Louis in Yankee Stadium. Can't do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, like, again, he's a below average strikeout pitcher. It's just such a, tough spot. Dave in chat, our resident St. Louis Cardinals guy, says that Cardinals put Pham on waivers today. Doesn't really shock me. It's not like Pham was having like this fantastic season or anything. So that one doesn't shock me at all. Let's talk about bats in this spot. I mean, again, Stroman, it doesn't typically get blown up by at least right-handed hitters, but left-handed hitters can hit Stroman. He doesn't typically give up a lot of home runs. Anybody standing out to you here for the Cardinals?
I mean, so for me, I just think it's a good hitting spot in terms of the stadium. I think Burleson will be fine. I think Donovan will be fine, just because I think they're going to get enough. Hear what I'm saying? I'm not saying it to you because we can't predict BABIP, but I just feel like they're going to put their bat on the ball enough to score some runs here. And so that's where Burleson comes in, Donovan comes in for me. Newt Barr's been there, or he's back rather. Arenado 3,900. Like I just think they're really cheap. Goldschmidt 4K. I just think they're cheap enough in Yankee Stadium to play a few of these bats.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm taking shots against Stroman, it's Burleson, it's Arenado, it's Donovan. Newt Bar, like you mentioned, win for the speed. Yankees I mean, I love the Yankees today. Fetty, like he had a good stretch, but still, I mean, a guy that has struggled with left-handed hitters massively recently. 267 ISO, 370 WOBA here over the last month. And I mean, you don't want to be struggling against a guy like Juan Soto. Jazz is back. Judge has a massive ceiling. So I think the Yankees very, very playable here against Fetty.
Yeah, man, for sure. I will say I do think there'll be some spots to play Fetty still, like throughout, as we close the season down. Definitely isn't one of them. Judge at 7,200. I'm going to my boy Soto. I think Judge is too expensive in my book, Stevie. Like I know he can hit 3 home runs, but 7,200 is asking a whole lot from a bat. I'm still fine with Soto though at 6,600. Stanton is 5,200. Obviously he can hit a home run, but I feel like that's still slightly expensive for him. But I get it. Verdugo I'm okay with. Rice, Wells, those guys still in the 4K range. We've had Torres leading off, and he's up in that 4K range now, but I'm still fine with him. I do think you stack the Yankees. I just think Judge is too expensive. I could be wrong, Stevie. Obviously, he can hit 3 home runs today. I know I've mentioned that, but that's a real big penny to pay when I think you're going to have some pitchers you want to get to on this slate and some other stacks that could fit the bill as well.
All right, moving on. Famous last words by saying it's really hard to play Judge, right? Like famous last words. Judge is the guy that can hit 3 home runs in a game. So, famous last words. I do want to give Kyle Murray a shout out. He was on the podcast with me Wednesday, and he gave you a full on Chief Justice mute on the podcast. It was fantastic. So, he was doing his best impression.
I've been muted in like 3 or 4 pods, so like people can just go ahead. We are now, we're probably about minus 120 on the over now, Stevie. Whereas before we were maybe hanging around minus 160, but the odds are starting to swing here, folks. So, hopefully that means I don't mute myself tonight.
All right, moving on. We got Pittsburgh at Cleveland, 8.5 total. Guardians a 164 favorite. Bailey Falter. I wrote it down on my sheet wrong. Ben Lively pitching for Cleveland. Let's start here with Falter. Any interest here?
No.
I mean, hey, listen, the price is nice.
It is.
The price is wrong. No. Movie reference. Let's see if anybody in chat gets that for sure. I mean, Faulkner is a guy that I definitely don't want to play in this spot. Cleveland, very low strikeout team. Faulkner, a very low strikeout pitcher. Yeah, he's 5,900, but he's priced appropriately. Ben Lively on the other side. I mean, Pittsburgh's a team, depending on the lineup from time to time, you can pick on this team. Any interest here in Lively?
Man, I think I'm going to do it because of the spot, Stevie. I do feel like Lively is a guy that, once again, I think he can get you 20. Like, I feel like 20 to 25 is like his max. And I'm okay with that at 8,100. I wish he was a little cheaper, but, I think the spot will allow me to try and get him in a few lineups. Now, I probably like him better than a few of the 8K guys in terms of just the spot. So I think I get to him, but it's mass multi-entry only.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more strikeout strikeout hitters in the lineup right now for Pittsburgh. O'Neal Cruz striking out a ton. McKinney is called up. We know that he is a guy that has some strikeout upside for this team. So the lineup overall, O'Neal Cruz, Yasmani Grandal, like the only 2 hitters with ISOs over 200 against right-handed pitching. So I think the matchup for Lively definitely presents some interest. So, I mean, I don't mind taking shots on Ben Lively here. It's just, again, like his strikeout ceiling has definitely been capped, but it was really good to see him throw 105 pitches last time out. I think that is good. And the Cleveland Guardians, just in general, a little bit better at home than they are on the road. So, Any interest here in the Pittsburgh Bats?
Not really. There's some other offenses I prefer to play. I mean, we could get them, look, Pittsburgh could come out here and demolish Lively today, but I don't think that's the most likely outcome. So I'm going to fade the Pittsburgh offense for some other ones we'll get to later on down the line.
Yeah, I mean, you could always take shots on Brian Reynolds or like O'Neal Cruz.
I don't get Brian Reynolds right, man.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like it's tough to get any
players. Jeez.
Tough to get any Pittsburgh bat right on any given slate, right? That's how it feels anyway. So
I feel like I played him for like a week and a half, just because you know how it is, Stevie. The guy's in a good spot. You play him, he fails. It's like, okay, but I know he can hit the baseball. I know it's another good spot. You play him again, and you play him again, and then it's like, okay, I have to hop off now. Like you're not hitting well right now, and that's how I feel about this whole team.
Let's go to the Guardians side. I mean, obviously, Jose Ramirez has been excellent against left-handed pitching this season, 340 ISO, 450 WOBA. David Fry has been excellent against left-handed pitching this season, 260 ISO, 415 WOBA. Noel, ever since kind of getting called up here, 548 ISO, 487 WOBA. And like some of his advanced stats actually kind of back up that like this guy might actually be very elite against left-handed pitching. So obviously some interest here against Faulkner, but I mean, Noel at 3,900 is going to be a top value play on the entire slate for me today.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you with Noel. I mean, I'm almost positive Lane Thomas is going to be batting in this spot too, Stevie. So
yeah,
short gone. I'm not going to say long gone. Short gone are the days where Cleveland just rolled a bunch of lefties out every day. Like they've got some guys to try to neutralize some left-handed pitching here now, Stevie, along with Jose Ramirez and Quan and the other lefties, which are still fairly low strikeout. So, you look at this team, you add Noel and you add Thomas in at 4,100 and 3,900. Now, obviously, you got to pay for Ramirez at 6,500. But all in all, this team is still very affordable. You can get Fry at 3,800. Maybe you forego Naylor for Fry today. I probably would in a few stacks. And Stevie, this stat comes out kind of cheap today. So I think the Cleveland stat is a sneaky complimentary stack. I don't think they're a primary stack, but I think a complimentary 3 to 4, I think it's a great spot for them today.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have some interest in the Guardians today for sure. Oakland at Texas is where we go next. JP Sears, John Gray, 8.5 total. Texas, a 150 favorite. Any interest here in JP Sears?
So, Stevie, what's interesting is, and I've talked about this before, I feel like Texas has not been as good this season against left-handed pitching. Now, clearly, Sears has been pitching fine, and then he had this blip on the radar with Milwaukee, and we get it. Is he about to turn back into a pumpkin, Stevie, or is that just a blip on the radar? I don't think we know. I don't think I want to play him against Texas. And that's just kind of where I am. Because I'm saying that, he probably scores 25 fantasy points today. But I don't want to play him against Texas. I haven't really targeted Texas all year, and I don't really want to start right now.
Yeah, I mean, I had a ton of interest in Sears last time out against Milwaukee. He had been pitching fantastic recently and he got absolutely hammered in that game. Texas has a lot of strikeouts in this lineup against left-handed pitching. Potentially not going to be able to get all these left-handed hitters out of the lineup. A lot of interest in Sears in large field tournament stuff. He's been, like I said, he's been really good recently, and he has a ton of strikeout upside against lefties and righties. So I think that he is a guy that you look at in large field tournaments. I mean, he's thrown at least 7 innings in 4 of his last 5 starts. And I mean, the strikeouts kind of all over the place. But again, you look at Texas and they're not going to get all these lefties out of the lineup. So interested in Sears in large field tournaments. John Gray, I mean, just not fully stretched out. Really don't know what to expect here as far as pitch count is concerned. 53 pitches 6 days ago against Cleveland. Any interest for John Gray?
I don't think so, Stevie. Gray just hasn't been good this season, like consistently, and I just don't see the value even at 6,700. I just don't think he's right this year, and so as a result, Steve, I don't even want to take the chance.
Yeah, I don't trust the pitch count more than anything else. Like, I don't necessarily hate the matchup against Oakland, but for one, I don't trust him to go out and throw a lot of pitches in this game. Strikeout rate's below average this year. He's really struggled with like lefties, and I mean Oakland, as much as you can like potentially pick on Oakland bats as far as some of these guys, like they have some power lefties in this lineup. So probably pass on John Gray, which leads me to kind of like some of these lefties. I mean, Lawrence Butler, JJ Bleday, Seth Brown, always, don't mind playing Roker or Bangaliers righty. I think Oakland's at a 3-man stack today for me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know, Steve. I might be in on a full here because I know that Gray has not been right. And when Oakland has had some interesting opportunities, they've come through for us. They're still fairly cheap overall. G-Loft cheap. You got Rooker here that's up top, but Bleday 4,200, Butler 4K. I think they're cheap enough, Stevie, that we can get these guys in. So I think I'm on team full stack Oakland today. I think that's where I am.
Yeah, listen, I wouldn't necessarily talk you off of it, right? I think there's a lot of upside in this Oakland lineup today for sure. And then on the Texas side, like on teams you're not taking shots on Sears, like I'm taking probably more shots on Sears than you are. Is there any interest here in the Texas bats?
I do have some. Obviously, Simeon, I think is fine. I think, Garcia obviously will be fine at 4,400. You got Wyatt Langford, who's hitting, he's 3,900. I think Texas is cheap enough. And then the one thing, too, I feel like if they get to Seager somehow, then they'll see some righties eventually. So I don't want to leave out Seager, although he has been one of the main culprits of strikeouts against lefties. I don't want to fade him as a result of that either. So definitely want to get these righties in there, and then a few of these lefties as well, in case they get to Sears early.
Yeah, I mean, if on teams that I'm not playing Sears, if I build like a 20-incher max or something today, I definitely have a handful of Texas stacks too. Simeon, Garcia, Wyatt Langford's been great against lefties. We know Josh Jung is going to eventually start hitting lefties. He'll get past this like injury phase and get it going. So yeah, I mean, Texas very much in play. Chat saying that they think Lawrence Butler had an incredible game. Yeah, I mean, he hit 3 home runs. That's 5 home runs in the last 3 games for Lawrence Butler. Cincinnati, man, what a dream. Like, if I'm the Reds, like, I'm going to get this guy. Gotta get this guy. We gotta get Lawrence Butler out of Oakland, Will. Like, we just gotta get him out of Oakland. So moving on, we got Kansas City at Houston, 7.5 total. Lowest total on the slate besides the Miami-San Francisco game. Shocker. Houston, a 166 favorite. Seth Lugo, Framber Valdez. Any interest here in Lugo?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on the quick no here. I think that there's times you can take shots on Seth Lugo, and I mean, I don't think this is one of them. I mean, this is a terrible matchup. Low strikeout offense, low strikeout at 9,100. He's not a huge strikeout pitcher. I mean, could BABIP go his way and he score like 18 here? Sure. 18 is not enough at 9,100 on this slate. So I'm going to pass with you on Lugo. Any interest in Framber Valdez on the other side?
This was tricky for me, Stevie, because, Valdez down the stretch of the season, man, he's been really good. Really good. Strikeout stuff has been there against all types of offenses, Stevie. 8 against Baltimore, 9 against the White Sox, 9 against Tampa Bay, only 5 against Texas, but he went 8.2 innings, 10 against Pittsburgh, like, a variety of offenses that he sees. 10 against the Dodgers. I think he's in play, Stevie. I don't think the strikeout upside feels like it's there on paper, but in real life, I think it is. And so because of the variety of offenses he's seen at 9,500, I am in on Framber Valdez.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree with you on Valdez today. Over 100 pitches in 3 of his last 4 starts. His strikeout upside has climbed here recently. He's generating more whiffs. He's generating more swinging strikes. He's giving up less barrels. So everything kind of leaning in the right direction. I mean, his strikeout rate is up 9.6% over the last 30 days. And granted, he got Tampa and Chicago, but he also got Baltimore and Texas. And he had 8 strikeouts against Baltimore, 5 against Texas, 10 against Pittsburgh. So I love the upside here. And I mean, this is a guy that just struck out 10 against the Dodgers recently. So yeah, I mean, I do think Framber Valdez very much in play. Should throw a lot of strikes. Kansas City, one of the lowest walk rate teams in baseball against left-handed pitching. So yeah, very, very interested in Valdez today. I'm with you. Kind of going to lead me to not really loving Kansas City. I mean, you could always play Witt and Perez against left-handed pitching. Garcia is much better against lefties, but I think I'm going to leave them on the shelf today.
Yeah, man. I love Kansas City. We've played Kansas City this season, Stevie. Like
a lot.
Yeah, a whole lot. Against Valdez, though, man, I don't think this is the spot to do it. Don't think this.
Yeah, I'm with you. Even Houston, like I don't necessarily want to play Seth Lugo, but I'm not like running to stack Houston in this spot either.
Yeah, for sure. One of those spots where I feel like both pitchers and teams kind of cancel each other out. So Lugo doesn't pick up a lot of strikeouts this matchup, but I don't think he gets shelled. And inversely, I do think Valdez gets his strikeouts here, and I also think he limits their scoring opportunities. So, yeah, kind of a lose-lose for both teams here in terms of their offenses.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, at the end of the day, you could play Yordan Alvarez against anybody. I just don't see myself paying up for Yordan Alvarez at 6,100 when we have so many good bats and so many good stacks to pay up for on the slate.
Yeah.
So
I for sure play Soto over Alvarez today. Like if I had to choose between those two.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. All right, Mets and White Sox, 9 total in this game. Mets 215 favorite. McGill against Cannon. Any interest here in Taylor McGill?
The hard breath, Stevie, because in my mind, I feel like we should be considering McGill here. And can he have a one-off game where he pitches well? Or a one-off game where he could just get me like 15, 16. It's been tough sledding with McGill. I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't think I'm going to do it even against the White Sox. And he's probably going to pitch a gem today, Stevie. But, man, he just has not been great.
Yeah, I mean, he struggled in AAA too. So it's not like he went down to AAA and just started pitching way better. That's not the case whatsoever.
Yeah.
So you're worried about like him struggling in AAA and all of that stuff. And then, I mean, you're obviously worried a little bit about pitch count, but he did get sent down to get stretched out. So like there is that possibility of him throwing like 90 plus pitches if he's pitching well. I'll play just about anybody against the White Sox. And if he was 6,400, I could definitely justify it a little bit more in my head. 7,400 is a tough price for me. It's an ownership thing. I think the Mets are going to get on Jonathan Cannon quick in this game, so McGill could pitch with a lead potentially. If he's going to be low owned, I mean, again, I'll play just about anybody against this team. But if he's going to have some ownership here, probably a stay away spot for me. Any interest in Jonathan Cannon on the other side of this game?
Negative.
Yeah, I mean, overall, like Jonathan Cannon, 16% Ks, 350 WOBA, 190 ISO, gives up a ton of hard contact, swinging strike rate really low. Just not a spot you want to play a pitcher, really. Like the Mets. I like the Mets when they get on the road, right? Like anytime the Mets can get on the road and get out of Citi Field, I have way more interest in playing the Mets. And I mean, I think they're in a great spot today going up against Cannon. They have one of the highest implied team totals on the slate. Yeah, I mean, I think the Mets are a full stack today.
Yeah, man, absolutely. they're cheap enough, Stevie, overall as a stack. JD Martinez, 4,400. Marte, 43. Nemo, 42. Winker, 34. McNeil, 32. Now, you have to pay up for Lindor. You have to pay up a little bit for Vientos. Alonso's 5K. But generally speaking, Stevie, like you can play a quality Mets lineup against Cannon tonight. And hopefully they hit a few cannons out of the park. And that's why we want to play them. I think it's a great spot for them. Once again, I think the lineup construction kind of fits. To me, the Mets fit today's lineup construction a lot, Steve, in terms of how you want to play pitcher, how you want to build. You get a real quality lineup and still get reasonably good pitching. Like if, for an example, if you decided you want to get like Valdez and drop down to a Lively or something like that, like you can get that in comfortably with the Mets. So I like this spot for them for sure.
White Sox, McGill is pretty terrible. The White Sox are pretty terrible. Is there anybody here for Chicago that you take some shots on?
I mean, man, is it Robert Day? Like, is he finally going to hit a home run? I know it's righty. Like, man, Benintendi's been hot. Like, this is probably a really good spot for him. Like, generally speaking, Stevie, at 3,100. I think if you're going to play the White Sox today, then you need to be probably playing Framber and like Snell. Like I feel like that's how you stack the White Sox because you're trying to get, what you feel like is going to be slam dunk top tier pitching. But I'm okay with the White Sox because once again, Tyler McGill has been so awful.
Yeah, who do you get excited about playing? Like Gavin Sheets is now a first baseman. So you're playing Sheets or Vaughn. That's two of their better hitters, so you can't play them together. Benintendi at 3,100, I think is a nice value play. Robert is probably too cheap. At 4,200, he is very talented. He's just on the wrong team. Guy probably doesn't even want to show up right now for work every day. The White Sox just awful. I saw a picture the other day of like maybe 100 people in the stands watching a White Sox game. It's just rough go. Toronto at Minnesota. We got Gausman and Pablo Lopez facing off against each other, 8 total in this game. Minnesota 158 favorite. Kevin Gausman, coming off of a stellar game, but it was the Angels. I don't want to put too much stock into that because it was the Angels. Any interest in Gausman here going up against Minnesota?
Nah, man. Gausman has not been great this season, and I can't do it. Like, I think this is too much for this spot. Minnesota's been a tough team, and so I don't know if he has enough upside against this team to do it.
Yeah, I will say, like, last time out against the Angels, Gausman was my highest owned pitcher on that slate. I remember very clearly that he was my highest owned pitcher on the slate. This is just not the same spot. Minnesota is really good against right-handed pitching. We've been talking about it all season long. So, yeah, I have no issues leaving Gausman on the bench today. Pablo Lopez, other side here. Any interest in Pablo Lopez in this one?
Oh, man. I feel like this is the same thing for Pablo, although Pablo's going to see. Well, since they changed his team, I'm not sure if he's not going to see as many righties as usual as they would have rolled out. I feel like the price is fair for what we know Pablo to be, but I still just don't feel comfortable. I don't think I play him right now, Stevie, and I reserve the right to change that. Pablo's on the fence for me. He could make the list, but as of right now, I don't think I want to do it.
Yeah, after watching Cutter Crawford pitch really well on Thursday, did you see Bowden Francis? Like, he was dominating the Red Sox. I think he allowed 1 hit, 5 strikeouts, 5 or 6 strikeouts in like 7 innings. He only was at like 70 pitches and they yanked him. So I thought that was interesting. But I have some slight interest here in Pablo Lopez. He does have some upside from time to time. the Blue Jays, I mean, they're very hit or miss. The lineup has gotten a lot younger for the Blue Jays, so I feel like there is more strikeouts in this lineup overall. So I don't mind Pablo Lopez in large field stuff at 8,600. I mean, we're searching for some upside some places for sure. Very inconsistent. I mean, that's what you're kind of looking at as far as tournaments go, is just the inconsistency. As far as the bats here, going to the Toronto Bats, I mean, I don't necessarily want to stack against Pablo Lopez. I think that we have a lot of good spots on the slate, and I just don't think this is one of them.
Yeah, I don't want to stack against him either. I just feel like his upside is just limited here. So it's a similar situation where I do think Toronto's upside is limited, and so is Lopez's. I don't feel the same way about Gausman in Minnesota, though.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota, I think, is a sneaky stack on the slate. I don't think a lot of people will play them because Gausman's a big name. But, I mean, you could play Minnesota on any slate, and I really wouldn't talk you off of it. They are just getting healthy, and they have so much upside in this lineup right now.
Yeah, man. Love Minnesota. They've stayed cheap, I feel like, no matter how well they've been or not good they've been. Stevie Waldner, Kepler, Larnach, all very cheap. And I know Margot leads off against lefties, but he's 3K. You know, Willie Castro down to 4,200. He's been as high as 48, 4,900 sometimes this season. You know, Royce Lewis is the big bat just because he has so much raw upside. Santana down to 33. I feel like because of the spot with Gausman, they are giving us even a little bit more of a discount, and he's just not the same pitcher. So I think Minnesota, Stevie, once again, this is going to be a team that I load up
on. Yeah, I mean, I think Minnesota has a lot of upside on this slate. Like I said, I do think they're going to be lower owned too. All right, Baltimore heading to Coors. We got Baltimore at Colorado, 11.5 total. Baltimore 180 favorite. Albert Suarez, Austin Gomber facing off against each other here. Any interest here in Albert Suarez?
Albert Suarez, Stevie, against Austin Gomber. The answer is no.
I mean, I will say, like, Suarez has actually been pitching pretty decently, and if this game was in Baltimore, I'd actually probably take some shots on him. For what it's worth, like, I don't think I could do it in Coors, especially like the Rockies have been at home. So like they're very adjusted to the altitude and stuff. So I don't want to play Albert Suarez in Coors, but I will say, like, you could potentially, if this game was in Baltimore, you could have potentially done it. Austin Gomber, other side, just not even thinking twice about it, right? Not playing him today.
Oh yeah, not at all. Not at all.
All right, Will, sell me on the fade. Baltimore Bats, what do you got?
Oh, man, this is a tough one for me because, you know, I don't like to play Coors. It is a 10-game slate. And realistically, I do feel like Baltimore is probably the best team here. So I don't think I'm gonna fade today. I am gonna use ownership as a measure. I do like the Mets. I do like the Yankees. I love Minnesota because they're so cheap. And so I think Baltimore is fine. My only concern is, and typically the reason why I fade them, Stevie, we're going to have 6 hitters in the 6 and 7 and 8 hole at 4,500, 4,800, like stuff like that. So that's my concern. But I can't in good conscience sell you on a fade of a Baltimore team facing Austin Gomber today. Can't do it.
Yeah, like Baltimore a lot in this spot. Obviously, I will say, like, I'm hoping that we get a couple random names in the lineup here that offer some value for this lineup. So yeah, I mean, we'll see who cracks the lineup and who doesn't. They do have some cheap bats that are right-handed that could potentially crack the lineup that would make the stack a lot easier for Coors. A lot of expensive bats too, but we'll see what the lineup looks like. Obviously, I think Santander is one of the top, if not the top hitter on the entire slate if you factor in matchup and price. he's 5,900. We were talking about Soto and Judge and them. They're fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, in cores against this guy, we know how good Santander is against lefties. Rutschman's very good against lefties. So Urias potentially in the lineup here is a guy that you could potentially offer some value. I wish Mateo wasn't hurt. He was crushing left-handed pitching at the beginning of the year. So it'd be interesting to see, because they're going to get some of these lefties out of the lineup. It'd be interesting to see how it kind of plays out here. Going to the other side, Rockies. Like, I mean, again, Suarez has been pitching decent, but the Rockies have been hitting. I mean, they've had some good matchups and they've taken advantage of it. What are your thoughts here on the Rockies?
I think the Rockies are fine. Once again, I'm not completely sold on Suarez today, but I do think the Rockies at home in a really good spot. I think this is a spot they could do some damage. So they're expensive, and that's my huge concern. Like, I like Blackman. Obviously, I'm always going to be fine with McMahon in a spot like this, but generally speaking, I think they're a little bit too expensive. So I'm probably not going to play the Rockies as much as I would play Baltimore, but that's just me.
All right, moving on. We got Seattle at LA taking on the Angels. No total in this game. George Kirby going to pitch for Seattle. Listen, I'm going to do the best I can. I apologize to this guy ahead of time. I think it's Algieri. I'm 100% probably saying it wrong. But we'll roll with that. Algieri. Anyway, Samuel Algieri against George Kirby. Going to George Kirby first. I mean, George Kirby has been struggling recently, and I mean, this is a great get right spot for George Kirby going up against the Angels. I like George Kirby a lot today. I mean, I think this is a spot, like I said, I think he can get right and pitch well. So a lot of interest in Kirby. I mean, the other side here, Algieri, like, I'm probably saying his name wrong. Algieri, like, it's against Seattle. You're getting his debut. Listen, I did some research on him. He is a top prospect, but nowhere near ready for the majors. Like, supposedly this guy is like 2 years away from everything I read. So good for the Angels on just saying, hey, we'll develop them in the pros and see how it kind of works out. Dana should eventually, like, I think he got called up too. And so when he starts, he is very, 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 very talented. Kay didn't Dana anyway. So I'd have more interest, but I mean, from everything I've read, average lefty here, not a bunch of big stuff. Just, yeah, I mean, average, so AA pitcher hasn't pitched past AA. So yeah, I think this is just one of those spots where maybe he doesn't get added to the player pool. DraftKings has added pitchers to the player pool at times this year. So maybe he doesn't get added to the player pool and we don't have to worry about it. As far as the Seattle bats, I mean, digging into this guy's stats, he seems very hittable. And again, I don't necessarily think that he's ready. And anytime you get a guy like this, like, anything is possible as far as like him pitching, and maybe he pitches well in this spot. But everything I've kind of seen from him as far as like AA, he came over in a trade with Philadelphia. But yeah, I mean, nothing spectacular as far as like, advanced stat stuff. His surface stats, not bad. Good strikeout stuff. So I think like there's talent. Obviously there's talent. Again, like I said, he's one of their top prospects. Good slider, good command, not overpowering stuff. So for me, as far as like the Seattle bats are concerned, anytime you get a guy jumping up 2 levels from AA to the majors, it's going to lead me to have some interest. Obviously, a lot of interest in like Cal Riley and Oroz Arena. They're great against left-handed pitching. I would throw like Julio Rodriguez in there if I was going to stack them, but those are the three most expensive bats as well. So I think you could potentially play like Robles or Justin Turner, depending on like if Haniger cracks the lineup. I think Seattle is like a cheaper mini stack here. So we'll see how that kind of shapes up. As far as the Angels bats against Kirby, no interest. I know Kirby's been struggling. The Angels stink. I don't see a lot of upside here with this team overall. So I think this is a team you want to stay away from as far as like bats. And just, I think again, like, I think this is a really good get right spot for Kirby. A lot of his struggles recently, he has like a 380 BABIP. So getting very unlucky when it comes to that. So I think that could potentially kind of neutralized here in this matchup against the Angels and pitch really well. So a lot of interest in Kirby, no interest in the Angels bats. Moving on, we got Dodgers at Arizona, 8.5 total in this game. The Dodgers a 124 favorite. Clayton Kershaw, Zach Gallen. Obviously, two top end pitchers here facing off against each other. Clayton Kershaw, 8,500 going up against Arizona. I think Kershaw's playable today. I mean, I have been targeting left-handed pitching against Arizona recently, and I think that this is a spot you could roll the dice on Clayton Kershaw. I mean, they're missing their two best right-handed bats right now. Marte's out, Walker's out. Will, what are your thoughts here when it comes to Clayton Kershaw?
Yeah, I'm with you on Kershaw, man. In terms of like just his progression in terms of pitching anyway, like he's gradually like now we see he's up to like mid 80s.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'd love for him to pick up a few more strikeouts and not get hit, Stevie. And so, you know, you're talking about the fact that some of their better hitters are not in this lineup. I think it's a solid spot for Kershaw. Now, I don't think we're going to see 30 fantasy points. I think realistically, Stevie, I think 16 to 20 is probably where we are, and I'm okay with that.
I think you get 25. I think like the fact that they let him go 88 last time out definitely tells me there's a possibility for 6 or 7 innings for Kershaw and like 90 pitches with Kershaw. Like he obviously has some upside at that point. So I like the matchup. Again, I've been targeting left-handed pitching against Arizona. I played Minaya. I don't even remember how Minaya did. I feel like it was so long ago. So scatterbrain, man. Brain everywhere. Scatterbrain. Zach Gallen, other side here. Listen, I think Zach Gallen is a very, very talented pitcher. I'll play him with just about anybody. I'm not playing Zach Gallen against the Dodgers.
Yep, not doing it. Now, I will say if this was last year's version of Zach Gallen, Stevie, I may have considered it. I may have thought twice at this price. But we can't play this season's version, I don't think. So, yeah, not doing it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't. I don't want to play him against Dodgers. Again, I think I'd play him just about anybody. And like, I'm not rushing to play the Dodgers against Zach Gallen. Like, they're expensive. Obviously, Freddie Freeman is expected to be back in the lineup here on Friday. But overall, I mean, they're so expensive. I want to target them against bad pitching. I don't want to target them against Zach Gallen. So if the Dodgers beat me today, they beat me. This isn't a spot I want to play them.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. You know, similarly, when I talked about Judge, Steven, him being 7,200, and now we're getting Ohtani at 7K, they're in a similar boat to me. And so I'm with you. This is a really inexpensive team. So yeah, I don't think I can do it. Like you said, if they burn us today, they just have to do it. I will say, I don't mind a one-off Mookie or a one-off Freddie Freeman or something like that, but I don't want to full stack them.
Arizona bats, any interest in Arizona?
Oh man, interesting spot. I know. So here's the thing. If you just need cheap stuff, like Perdomo may be leading off today, Stevie. Like if you just need cheap stuff, but I think we can do better than that today. Suarez is 4,200. Man, if he was 3,800, Stevie, that'd be a great spot for just kind of a one-off power bat. I do think he could take Kershaw deep today for what it's worth. I would probably still play Suarez, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this, right? I don't necessarily love playing the White Sox, but I would prefer playing the White Sox if I was going to punt instead of Arizona. I'd rather play the matchup.
Yeah,
I'll look at that. All right, we finish out the slate. Miami at San Francisco, 7 total. San Francisco, huge favorite here, 260. We got Adam Aller pitching for Miami and Blake Snell pitching for San Francisco. Any interest here in Adam Aller?
It's an interesting spot, Stevie. We saw him get into the 90s. This past 2 starts against the Cubs, against the Diamondbacks. Clearly, we know San Francisco has had some serious strikeout struggles as they start to close out the season. And Aller 6,900. I think you could do worse. And that's where I'm at. I think in large field, maybe I get to him on the cheap end, but in single entry or 3-entry max, never.
I mean, good ballpark. My biggest concern is like some of his advanced stats is just not great. So I obviously worry a little bit about that, but he's cheap. He's 6,900. He's really cheap. I think like for the price and in the matchup and in the ballpark, I mean, all 3 of those things definitely pointing towards potentially taking shots on him. I will say like he's not a guy that has ever been like a huge strikeout guy in AA, AAA, any of that stuff. So like he's not a huge strikeout guy. I think you could take shots on him. The fact that they're willing to roll him out 90 pitches, he's 6,900 against San Francisco. He is that like type of guy where, hey, maybe 15 actually makes some sense for him. So I don't hate it. Blake Snell, I mean, I don't know. Like obviously a ton of interest in Blake Snell, right? Like it's a matchup against Miami. You have to love Blake Snell in this spot. Do you trust it? Not one bit, but I mean, you have to play the ceiling, right?
Yeah, the thing is, I don't think he's overpriced either, Stevie. Like, I really think this is the appropriate price for the spot he's in at home. Clearly, he has strikeout upside, and I'm going to consider this matchup with Seattle just kind of a blip. Only made it to 74 pitches. The 6 walks just piled up on him. He had 5 strikeouts in 3 innings. I think, Stevie, we could get a really good performance from Snell here. This could be a 30 fantasy point performance. So I'm not writing him off because of that last bad start. I think we play him today.
I think he could put up like 50. I mean, I think his ceiling is massive in this spot. Just absolutely massive. Any Miami bat that you'd be like willing to take shots on? I mean, Norby's been great. He's cheap. Berger's 5,100. I mean, he's been great against lefties. Derek Hill, in his small sample sizes, crushed lefties. Is there any of these bats you'd take shots on here against Snell?
No, not today, man. I think Snell's gonna. I think it's a good spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like a really good spot. A lot of strikeout upside in this spot. Like, if he's going to be super chalky and you want to make a leverage stack, sure, but I'm not doing it. I'm going to play Blake Snell today. I don't honestly have a ton of interest in the San Francisco bats either. I think Aller is, a guy that could limit the damage a little bit. I mean, Fitzgerald, Conforto, Ramos, Chapman, Yaz, maybe McRae. Like, if anything, maybe a 3-man San Francisco stack of like these cheaper bats. Yaz is 3K, which is great. McRae is 2,700. McRae is actually not a bad value play, I think, in this spot. What are your thoughts here on the Giants?
Oh man, I mean, I'm not thrilled about the Giants. I think they could possibly score some runs. but Conforto still continues to be cheap. Maybe he has a power home run left in him. But overall, I think I for one, Stevie, I think I would play the White Sox over the Giants today because of the spot. So I don't think I need them.
All right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we'll get out of here. Hope everyone has a great Labor Day weekend, Monday off. I hope everyone's great. I won't be on the podcast Monday. Luch will be hosting on Monday's podcast, going to the race this weekend. If anybody's going to Darlington, hit me up, say hi. I know someone that's going to his first race ever this weekend, and he's smiling right now. Under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts. Who do you got?
I feel like there's one main answer for me here, and I don't really like it, and that's Aller.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that I think you could definitely take some shots on down here. JP Sears is the other one. Like, he might not do it clean, but I think he has some strikeout upside against Texas. Yeah. So over 8K to score under 15. Who's your bust?
I think we have a fair amount today, Stevie, and I am going to ride with the guys that continually bring me home, and that's Kevin Gausman against the Minnesota Twins.
Good old Kevin Gausman. I mean, my initial thought was Zach Gallen, and I think I'm just going to roll with that against the Dodgers. Zach Gallen easily could get over 15, but I think he's one of my least favorite plays in this range. Over 4,000 to hit a home run, not in Coors. Who's going yard today?
I've mentioned this guy a couple times, and he's expensive, Stevie, but I like him today, and that's going to be Juan Soto at 6,600.
Yeah, I obviously like the Soto play. I think he has a ton of upside in this spot. I'm going to kind of go off the board a little bit today. Give me Mark Vientos to hit a home run against Jonathan Cannon. Like the Mets a lot today. Under 4K to get 2 hits. Who's a cheap bet that you like?
I'm going to stay in that same game. Give me Nolan Arenado at 3,900.
I'm going to go to my boy Noel for Cleveland, getting the job done here. Yeah, I think one of his hits is going to be a home run. Stack to score 6 or more runs. Who do you got scoring some runs today?
Oh, man. A lot of options here, Stevie. There's one team that I love the most, and I play the most. And that's the Minnesota Twins. We're going with the Twins today. I'm going to let these guys bring me home. Let's go.
I like it. I'm going to go Mets. I like the Mets to score a bunch of runs today. Give me Minnesota as my, stack to score over 6 runs. Mets. I said Mets, right? I think I said Mets and then Minnesota. I don't know. I'm losing my mind. Any player props or pick 'em plays that you like on today's slate?
Yeah, I was trying to go through and look at some as they came up. And Blake Snell's at 7.5, but he's at -150. I don't like the odds here. But we're getting Adam Aller in the same game. We can get him at 3.5 for -130. I think that may come up a little bit. It may even bump to 4.5, Stevie, before the morning comes. But if you can get your hands on that, I do like that one.
All right, fair enough. No player props, nothing like jumping off the page for me. I gotta remember to get all the bets I want in for the weekend before I leave for South Carolina tomorrow.
You better, because you won't have access.
I know. I gotta remember that. So I'm gonna get my 3-pick parlay in here in just a second. Is there any other bets that you like on this slate?
Not really, man. I feel like everything's kind of right where it should be. Even the Twins, I thought I might have got something a little better. The Twins, Stevie, -150. So, nothing really standing out that's clear and obvious. The only one that's probably slightly clear and obvious, maybe the Dodgers at -120. But that's probably about it.
All right, 3-pick parlay. Let's end the week on a positive note. Been a cold week as far as the morning grind 3-pick parlay. Let's finish off with a bang. I'm going to go Mets over 4.5 runs. Got to pay the juice on this one, minus 160. Twins to win, minus 150. Will talked about that one. I don't necessarily love the juice betting it outright, but I'm going to put it in the 3-pick parlay today. And then I got Giants and Marlins under 7.5 runs, minus 130. That's plus 379 over there on the Hard Rock app. So, yeah, Mets over 4.5. Twins win. Giants, Marlins under 7.5. That's the 3-pick parlay for Friday. Will, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Negative, my brother. Can't wait to hang out this weekend.
Yes, looking forward to hanging out for sure. I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. We're back Monday talking baseball. Good luck, everyone. We'll see you then.